In the quiet town of Millbrook, where shadows lingered longer than they should, Detective Sarah Reeves stood at the edge of a crime scene that defied explanation. The body of a young woman lay sprawled across pristine white sheets, her eyes frozen open in a final moment of terror. But what chilled Sarah to her core was unto the victim as haunting as it was the complete absence of any physical evidence. As the seasoned detective circled the room, her trained eyes searching for the slightest clue, she couldn't shake the eerie feeling that she was being watched. The killer had left no fingerprints, no DNA, not even a stray hair. It was as if the murderer was a ghost, slipping in and out of reality at will. Sarah's partner, Detective Mike Holloway, entered the room. His face green. "Forensics just finished their sweep," he said, his voice low. "They found nothing. Absolutely nothing." Sarah nodded, her jaw clenched. This wasn't the first time they'd encountered a scene like this. Over the past 6 months, 3 other victims had been found in similar circumstances, all brutally murdered, yet leaving behind no trace of their killer. As they left the crime scene, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were dealing with something beyond their understanding. The killer wasn't just meticulous, they were impossible. Back at the precinct, Sarah pored over case files, her eyes burning from lack of sleep. The victims seemed random, different ages, backgrounds, and locations, yet something connected them, a thread so fine it was almost invisible. Days turned into weeks, and the investigation hit dead end after dead end. The press dubbed the killer the Phantom, and fear gripped the town like a vice. Sarah found herself waking in cold sweats, haunted by nightmares of faceless killers and rooms devoid of evidence. It was during one of these restless nights that a realization struck her. She bolted upright in bed, her heart racing. The connection wasn't in the victims, it was in what was missing. Sarah rushed to the precinct, ignoring the curious glances from the night shift officers. She pulled out all the case files, spreading them across her desk. As she compared notes, a pattern emerged. One so subtle, it had eluded them all this time. Each victim's home was missing something small, something personal. A favorite coffee mug, a cherished photograph, a childhood toy. Items so insignificant, their absence hadn't even been noted in the initial reports. As dawn broke, Sarah presented her findings to the team. "The killer isn't just taking lives," she explained, her voice tight with anticipation. "They're collecting trophies." The revelation sparked a new line of investigation. They began cross-referencing missing persons reports with unsolved burglaries, looking for any overlap. It was tedious work, but Sarah felt they were finally on the right track. Weeks passed, and their efforts seemed fruitless. But then, a breakthrough. A pawnshop owner reported a customer trying to sell a collection of seemingly random personal items that matched those missing from the victims' homes. Sarah and Mike raced to the location, their hearts pounding. As they approached the shop, a figure emerged tall, nondescript, almost fading into the background. Their eyes met, and in that instant, Sarah knew they had found their phantom. The chase that ensued was like nothing Sarah had ever experienced. The suspect moved with inhuman grace, always just out of reach. They weaved through alleyways and scaled buildings as if gravity was merely a suggestion. Finally, in a dark warehouse at the edge of town, Sarah cornered the killer. As she raised her gun, the figure turned, and Sarah's blood ran cold. The face before her was featureless, a blank canvas that seemed to shift and change with each blink. "What are you?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. The figure tilted its head, and though it had no mouth, Sarah heard its reply as clearly as if it had been whispered directly into her mind. "I am the spaces between your thoughts, detective. The shadow you see from the corner of your eye. I am the absence of evidence." Before Sarah could react, the figure seemed to dissolve into the darkness. She fired her weapon, but the bullets passed through empty air. As backup arrived, flooding the warehouse with light, Sarah stood alone, her gun still raised, staring at the spot where the killer had been. In the days that followed, Sarah struggled to make sense of what she had seen. The killings stopped, but the questions remained. How does one catch a killer that exists beyond the realm of physical evidence? How does one prove the existence of something that, by its very nature, leaves no trace? As Sarah sat at her desk, staring at the case files, that now seemed to mock her with their lack of answers. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. The phantom may have disappeared, but its presence lingered, a constant reminder that some mysteries are never truly solved. She closed the files, her decision made. She would continue to search, to investigate, to push the boundaries of what she thought possible, because somewhere out there, in the spaces between reality and nightmare, a killer was waiting, and Sarah Reeves was determined to bring them to justice, no matter the cost. As she left the precinct that night, Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. For a moment, she could have sworn she saw a featureless face watching her from the shadows, but when she turned to look, there was nothing there. Nothing but the unsettling certainty that, in this game of cat and mouse, she wasn't sure which role she truly played. The streets of Millbrook seemed different now, filled with unseen threats and unspoken fears. Sarah knew that her life would never be the same. She had glimpsed something beyond explanation, and now she walked a fine line between sanity and obsession. But as she drove home, her mind racing with theories and possibilities, Sarah felt a strange sense of exhilaration. She had always thrived on challenging cases, on pushing herself to her limits, and what could be more challenging than a killer who defied the very laws of nature? She parked her car and made her way to her apartment, her senses on high alert. As she reached for her keys, she froze. There, on her doormat, lay a small, innocuous, objective coffee mug she recognized from one of the crime scene photos. With trembling hands, Sarah picked up the mug, her mind reeling. It was a message, she realized, a taunt, a challenge, a promise of things to come. As she entered her apartment, locking the door behind her, Sarah knew that her battle with the phantom was far from over. It had only just begun. And as she settled in for another sleepless night, surrounded by case files and unanswered questions, she couldn't help but wonder, in this twisted game of cat and mouse, who was really the predator and who was the prey.